welcome back to Beyond the Gate, a Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Meg. And today we have a special guest. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Olivia.
Yes, my sister-in-law.
She's currently on a watch through of Full Metal, but
First one.
Yeah, and you haven't made it to the end yet.
No,
right?
we're like on we're 10 episodes ahead of the one we're doing. So
okay,
we're like at 44.
getting there. You're getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting to like the last chunk.
We're out of the north and where I'm watching.
Okay. Yes. Okay. But this episode is episode 34 called Ice Queen.
Yes, and in this episode, the soldiers at Fort Briggs remain ever vigilant against the threat of spies from Drachma. The massive compound may seem impenetrable, but a violent intruder offers destructive proof to the contrary.
Yes, and this episode covers manga chapter 65, The Ironclad Rule, and 66, The Snow Queen. I like how they, she took like the Hans Christian Andersen title. Elsa.
And I guess before we jump into the episode, we can ask the questions that we like to ask our guests. So Olivia, who is your favorite character in the show?
That's such a hard one. It's like kind of changed over time. So.
Yeah, and you can say if we haven't met them yet, you can still say it.
So I originally, when I started watching the show, I really liked Colonel Mustang.
Yeah.
He was one of my favorite people. I really like his powers, like how he does the alchemy, like with the fire, and I will forever love his line about how it's raining today and it's because he's crying. That scene always I don't know. I think it should make you feel sad, but I laugh every time.
Oh, wow.
I think it's funny.
I'm trying to hold in my emotions.
It's trying to be a big man. It's raining today. But I think as I've watched the show, I have a really strong love of the Armstrong siblings, both of them. I think they are very complimentary of each other. We got the silly lovey one and the cold distant powerful one.
And the look of them is not what you expect. It's actually the brother who's the lovey one and the sister.
And also I love a strong independent woman.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's amazing. And she's pretty awesome, so I'm glad we're getting to meet her in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's definitely one of my top characters for sure. And then, what is your favorite anime?
Oh, okay. So I'm a little bit of a newbie to anime, but I used to watch a few one season shows back in high school, and I don't think I found anything yet that has topped Beyond the Boundary, which is my favorite. I don't know if you guys
haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, it's really good. So it's this own little universe where they have monsters and stuff in it, and it's kind of hard to explain until you because it's this whole universe, understanding it is a little difficult and explaining it is kind of hard. But basically there's this guy that's partially kind of a zombie, and this girl that has poisonous blood that she can warp into a sword and stuff, and essentially they're fighting misfits, kind of fighting this overall bad guy. I don't know, it's kind of
fall in love?
Yes, of course. Duh. But
it's a short series. I will for sure
it's
check that
really
out.
good, you guys. I have it 10 out of 10 recommend. And nice. I made my husband watch it and he liked it too, so
I honestly have not heard of that one.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. I highly recommend. But
cool.
But we'll save. Well, we kind of already did the next question because you're watching the show right now and you haven't finished it yet. But I guess what are your overall thoughts so far?
So far, I really like it. It took me a while to get into it, especially with the trauma that is episode, what is it, 3 or 4?
Nina.
Yeah. I did not want to continue after that episode.
Yeah, I almost quit the show after that one too.
Very traumatizing.
Yes.
I still think about it sometimes. But I don't know. I really like it, and I love all the characters. I don't know, my one big pet peeve with this show, and you guys are this is a hot take, but I hate how the theme song keeps changing.
Oh, yeah, you're not used to that if you've watched a bunch of
Yeah,
one-offs. Yeah.
I'm not used to it, and I really liked the original theme song. That was my favorite, and I just feel like they keep getting progressively, like, disappointing to me, because I really liked the first one, so.
I guess, well, it's slightly a hot take because this intro we're on is my favorite, but I can see that because, you know, growing up as Americans, we're used to the one theme song that sticks throughout, and it's like nostalgic and perfect.
I know, I really like the one, like, I get attached to theme songs, okay? Yeah. And I'm still attached to the first one.
Well, that's not a bad thing. I think that's totally...
That one definitely is, like, the classic. When you think of Full Metal, like, you think of that theme song.
That's when you think of Brotherhood, you think of that
And song. I love the little, like, I love the, whatever you call it, like, the animation in the beginning, too, with that song. Like, I think it's fun.
Yeah.
But no, I really like it so far, and all the characters are really great, and the bad guys are complex, and it's all very, very good. I am enjoying it a lot, and I feel like I'm zooming through it now, and I'll probably finish it soon, and I'm sad because I like it.
Well, you get to a certain point in the show where, like, you have to keep watching. Me and Megan watched the last, like, 10 episodes, maybe even more than that, in like a week.
I feel like that's what it's going to get to for me too.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
we're not to that point yet, but we'll get there. It'll be hard to watch our one episode a week.
Oh yeah, I don't know how you do
it. Yeah, self-control.
Yes.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah, I mean, we already know what happens, so that
that helps. That helps. But those last 5 episodes, those are like major hype, and yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we can jump in to the episode. We start with Ed. He's at the Northern Wall, and he's being treated by, I assumed she was a doctor, or maybe like automill / doctor, not exactly sure, but and she tells him that the reason that, like, he was having issues with his automill is, like, the flesh that is touching it will freeze just due to the iron, and he needs to call his mechanic to come and fix his automill. So yay, gonna get to see Winry again.
Winry's on her way.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen her, and I miss her. And then the Buccaneer, the guy that they fought, he comes in, and Al's head is still stuck on his arm, and he needs it to be cut off. And while he's there, I think it actually happened before, but the doctor tells Ed that they figured out, like, the perfect combination for automail that can be used in the cold.
Yeah, in the manga, she actually says the metals used, or the materials, not all metal. So duralumin, I think I said that. Carbon fiber and nickel copper alloys. So
yeah, I think that they say that in the anime too, but then they say those 3, and then they say, like, plus other things, and it's like, okay,
various trace elements.
Yes, yeah.
But it makes sense because carbon fiber isn't metal, so it's not gonna freeze out in the cold.
Yeah. And they're just kind of, like, learning more about each other, and Buccaneer is surprised that Ed is a state alchemist. I think he says, like, thinks to himself, like, this little runt is the equivalent of a major. And
Ned just holds his pocket watch and laughs.
Yeah. And then Olivier enters, and she calls him, she's very creative. She calls him the little red runt.
I loved that part. I laughed. I wrote it down. I'm like, oh, hello, little red runt.
Little Red Riding Hood.
Yes, yeah. And it's so funny. He's, like, the only one that he doesn't get upset. Like, I mean, he gets upset, but he doesn't get angry when
he's sad.
Yeah, and he's too scared of her to get mad, which is understandable. And then we see Al has gotten his head back, and he's super sad because his hair is like has been cut really short. He's like,
Guys,
oh no, it looks terrible.
This was like eye-opening for me because I don't know if I just like haven't been paying attention or what, or like missed this the first time around, but he has hair? Like what?
Yeah.
I had no idea he had hair.
Yeah, it's
and
like
I'm
a
like,
plume on his helmet.
I guess I just like haven't been like, I just don't see the back of his head, or I don't know, like I just didn't notice like that he had hair. And it was so great. I'm like, Al has hair.
Not anymore.
I know, so sad.
Him getting so upset was he's not.
Al.
I know.
He lost his hair.
Yeah, he's not usually so concerned about his appearance. Like, Ed's the flashy one, but he's like, that's my hair.
I mean, yeah, I would say he's a little bit concerned because he's also like, in the past, he's been like, oh, the girl's tiny, like he's.
Well, that's in the
concerned
manga
about
extra
what the
panels.
girls think
Like,
of him.
well,
Is
yeah,
it? I feel like there's been at least one scene where
maybe
he's
one or
like
two, but
talked
yeah,
about that.
in the extras at
Yeah.
the back of the manga, there's these little 4-panel comics, and in a lot of them, he's like, "What can I do to be more appealing to the ladies?" And they try all these things, like switching his armor out, or like Ed trying to paint eyes on the helmet,
Yeah.
which ends up looking really freaky.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Well, I think those little manga extras are like an insight into their personalities. So I think
yes.
he does care. So anyway, then Olivier is she asks about her brother Alex, and now like Alex is doing great, and she's like, for some reason she's mad about it.
Yeah, she has beef with him. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, and then she starts to question the Elrics about what they're doing here, and they're like, we can't tell you, and she's like, you have to, and she's like, no, we're gonna be court-martialed, and I love her line. She's like, everyone has secrets that they could be court-martialed for, like including me.
Like, what have you done?
Yeah. And then like they and now like whisper between each other, and they're like, okay, we'll tell her about that. We're trying to get our bodies back. And so that's for now, that's the information that they share with her. And I think we don't see this part of the conversation, but like they assume they're telling her that they're trying to find May, who knows about alchemy, and Olivier is she calls them reckless wretches who cause trouble wherever they go. And she wants to kill them. It's like, it would just kill you, but I want to know about alchemy too, and I want to use it as a weapon against Drachma. And I think it's Al that's like, oh, but alchemy is meant for healing, and she's like, I don't care. And she also says, like, the Northern Wall of Briggs defends the country's borders and protects everyone in Amestra, so we need to know everything that we possibly can, and utilize everything we can to protect our borders. She's very very concerned with that, as she should be. She's general of the Northern Wall. And so anyway, she says she'll let them live, and she's gonna search for May while she puts them to work, and she's like, a man who does not work has no right to eat. And the Elrics agree with her. They're like, yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's one of the things the author said she grew up believing because she lived on a farm. So she slipped that right in there.
Yeah, I feel like Olivier is, I don't know, just reading, we read some of the interviews with her, and Olivier seems to be her, well, she's one of her faves.
So it's like her self-insert almost.
Yeah, that kind of, I think, reflects a lot of her own values and beliefs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like her, but like going back and watching this again, like from the beginning of when like we meet her, like she's like really scary. Like I don't really blame the Elrics for like withholding information, because it's like she's just like very intimidating, and I don't know, just like blunt, and Oh, she's direct. She's super direct, and it's like in a very intimidating and daunting way. And it's like, oof, I wouldn't want to mess with her or share information with her.
Yeah, and
at least at first, but you know, she like grows on you. But
and they're kids too.
Yeah.
She's like treating them like full-fledged adults, and well, they are part of the military, so she's like, "You're soldiers. You do what I say. I'm your superior." Cut and dry.
Yeah, yeah. She's a very hard woman, and I like her. Honestly, the first time I met her, she's a little bit off-putting because it's like, bro, chill. But but I still liked her. She's just fun.
The complete opposite of Alex.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what makes her interesting too, is that like, how did they come from the same family? Anyway, then we see Olivier talking with Buccaneer, and she's like, I think Buccaneer's like, they've definitely seen stuff, and Olivier agrees with that, but she's like, but they're still soft and weak on the inside, and she knows that they're hiding something, which I don't know, I feel like that was fairly obvious. Then the Elrics are going to get put to work. They're being led by I don't know, I think it's Olivier's like second in command, Major Miles, which I don't know why, but his name just makes me happy.
Major Miles.
Yeah, it's just kind of fun.
It's a slightly more normal name, like Edward Miles. You know, those names that we know.
Yeah. And they're asking why he's there at the Northern Wall, and he takes off his glasses, and we see that he has red eyes, and so he's Ishvalan, and which is surprising because the military slaughtered the Ishvalans, and so like I thought that everybody, all Ishvalans in the army were removed. He was not. And I don't know, I don't think they do the best job of explaining why not. I think it's like part Olivier protecting him, but then also he says he's like part Ishvalan, and he says his father is a different race. He didn't say specifically a Mestrian, which led me to think that it might be something else, but
like Drachma maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. It was interesting. And Ed's like, how can you serve in the military with what happened to the Ishvalans? And he does say, like, I am upset that the Amestrians destroyed my grandfather's land, but
I think when he's talking about how he's upset, he turns to Edward and says, Amestrian, your people destroyed my grandfather's homeland, and then Ed just kind of shoots back, like, well, you Ishvalans destroyed my countryside, so reasonable, and one of you murdered my friend's parents.
Yes, okay, yeah. That is feisty. Fights back. And he makes Miles laugh. He's like, yeah, you're right. I never heard somebody respond that way, and I usually just get like guilt and pity, which I thought was interesting. And he's surprised by the way Ed responds. And Ed just says, like, I'm not concerned about, people's identities. People are people.
Yeah. What he says in the manga was really powerful when I read it. He says, when ethnicity is all you think about, there's bound to be confrontation. But if we deal with one another as individuals, then it's possible to treat each other as equals.
Yeah. I really like that. And I like it a lot better than what he actually says in the anime.
Yeah, I didn't really care for that.
Which we'll hear that.
Well, we'll get back to that.
Yeah. And they're talking, and Ed, I don't know, he's just so sweet. He's always caring about people, and he's like, I'm an ignorant alchemist. Like, I don't, there's a lot that I don't know, and I'm sorry if I offended you in any way. And Miles again, like, surprised, like
I've never heard of an ignorant alchemist before.
Yeah, exactly. And then Ed asks him why Olivier kept him, and then we we see her. She needed strong soldiers, and she can't afford to discriminate. And she's like, "Shut up and follow me." Basically, being in the North, it's all about survival of the fittest, and it doesn't matter who you are or where you came from. All that matters is that you can survive. And then he gives Ed now their job, and it's scraping off ice, and it's super funny because Ed like you see them working, and Ed like can't reach the ice, like it's too short. And then we see Fullman. He's there. He was at I think they said he was at like the North Command Center, but then he was moved up to the Northern Wall. But he is also removing ice, and they're like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And like, "Oh, he's been taken off the career track."
Yeah, I love it in the manga because Fullman was promoted, but he was given a job that doesn't fit his station. So Al says, "You've missed the train to success."
Runs away
like
crying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I don't know what happens, but then Fullman's giving them a tour to the research center, and which he tells them that Olivier started, and they're developing technologies, basically, I think, to fight Drachma. That is her main goal in life. And while they're down there, there's some workers, and they're hearing like digging underneath like the lowest level of the wall. And then we go underground, and we see a homunculus digging, and he is huge. He's got the tattoo, the Ouroboros tattoo on his back, and he's like, "What a pain." And then there's like he must have hit something or something, but then there's like a big explosion, and then we briefly go up to Miles, Buccaneer, and Olivier. They have just learned that the Crimson Alchemist, which we saw in the last episode, Kimberly, has been injured, and they have been like called to like assist him. And Olivier is very suspicious because she's like, "I thought he was in prison serving time." And they're like, "The Fuhrer released him," and so she's like, this doesn't make sense. But they don't have a lot of time to think about it, because then like the alarms start going off, and then we go back to the ground floor, and we see that the giant homunculus has emerged from underground, and Ed now like immediately recognize it, like, "Oh, it's a homunculus." And they like try to confront it and be like, "Leave us alone, like you can't hurt us, we're, whatever." But then like the homunculus falls asleep while they're talking to him.
Are you seriously sleeping right now?
Yeah. And it's like clear that he doesn't know who Ed and Al are, which they are surprised.
Yeah. And in the manga, the other Briggs soldiers noticed that the Elrics were talking to it, and they become suspicious, and Fullman just decides to nope himself out of there. He's like, "I don't know them."
That's hilarious. I mean, that's understandable. He's already been taken off the career track, so he's like, "I don't need any more trouble."
Yeah.
And so then the homunculus like throws this huge pipe at Ed and Al, and the soldiers try to shoot at him, but obviously, as we know, like nothing happens. He's even like seems more powerful than the other homunculi, which, because like when you shoot them, like the bullets actually go in, but these like literally just like bounce off of him.
Yeah.
And then he's just kind of wandering around. He like steps on the little elevator thing and like goes up to the research development floor. And this is where it's so awesome. Olivier joins the fight. She like has this giant bazooka thing and like shoots it at him, and like nothing happens. They get in tanks and start like firing at him, and we see like his like one part of his face does get ruined, but then like they see it heal, and they're like, "What the heck is this thing?" And the homunculus, which we see in like the middle card things, his name is Sloth. He's like, "Pain is annoying." And then Ed and Al arrive, and Ed like he makes a hand to protect some people that are trying to escape. And Olivia confronts him is like about Sloth and be like, how do you know this thing? Like, are you working with it? And so he finally tells her a little bit. He still won't, like, he tells her about that it's a homunculus and it can't die. But he won't tell her like how he knows about it. But they're on the same side. And then Olivier. It's hard because I'm like seeing Olivia, so I want to.
Yeah.
I'm so confused. I'm sorry.
Olivier, she calls for tank fuel, and Ed's like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "You're gonna get to see the Briggs way."
Yeah.
And the episode ends.
Yes. That one is
I was like,
so
well,
cool.
give me over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That one did go by fast.
I know, it went so
it does.
fast.
It does.
Yeah.
And also, she was like so smart too, because like he was like telling her like, oh, you can't kill her, and she's like, I already know that, like I already figured that out, like I'm a few steps ahead of you. Just like, what is it though? Like,
Yeah, I like her.
She's so
Yeah.
awesome.
She's smart, strong, independent. Like,
She's
yes.
Yes. Yeah, now the episode's over. We have a couple voice acting notes. So we're going to do Major Miles and the woman herself, Olivier. And so Major Miles is voiced by Jason Douglas, who is Kokyo from Dr. Stone. How did you say this guy's name from Attack on Titan?
I don't know how to say it.
Okay, we're just going to say Mitch Zacharias from Attack on Titan, and Rudolph Hess from Conqueror of Shambhala, which was the Fullmetal Alchemist movie. And then Major General Olivier Armstrong is played by Stephanie Young, who is Nana Shimura from My Hero Academia, Sylvia Sherwood from Spy Family, and Vanessa from Black Clover, who is awesome. And Miles, his name is from Latin origin. It means soldier. And Olivier comes from French origin, and it means elf warrior or ancestor's descendant. And her middle name, Mira, which they do like the tongue roll thing, so Mira, it's from Latin origin, and it means look or admirable. Yeah.
I like the name. I like her name meaning. What does Olivia mean?
Olive tree.
That's the other meaning I found.
Okay,
like,
yeah.
When I looked up
Yeah.
Olivier, something else came up, and then underneath it said Olive and Oliver, and it was just like olive trees.
Yep, olive.
Okay.
Tree.
Yeah.
Nothing special.
Yeah, well, actually, that was like a hot commodity in ancient Greece.
That's
so.
true, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Trees,
Yeah.
olive oil, all that stuff.
Yeah. We didn't have too many other things. Ed short rants, he didn't have any because Armstrong is too scary. Homunculi deaths, it was hard to track because Sloth is just this absolute tank, but we're just gonna say he died twice because a lot of the impacts didn't penetrate his skin, but there was at least 2 shots that caused damage, one to the face, one to the stomach. As for animation expertise, I was very impressed by the Briggs soldiers because the background characters were actually well designed. There were hardly any, if any, copy-paste characters. They all looked different and unique and cool.
I did notice that. I was like, not really paying attention this time, obviously, but I was like, oh wow, these like look like people. Like,
yeah, because like the
not
other,
just like copy paste.
right? Like the other soldiers in Central, they're just like black-haired character number 1, black-haired character number 2. Oh, they look like they could be twins.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, we kind of already mentioned this, but I just the automail. We might get into it later when Winry actually comes. But basically the automail that Ed has is made of iron. And then in the cold you need something different because it can give you frostbite, like where your skin meets the metal, because I think iron gets pretty
Like absorbs the
it gets pretty cold.
Yeah.
So you need something that's more temperature resistant. And so, as we mentioned, it's made of duralumin, carbon fiber, nickel, copper, and
what is duralumin?
Yeah, I looked that up because I was curious.
Mm-hmm.
So it's apparently, like, the name itself, is actually an obsolete trade name, but it's actually age hardenable aluminum alloys and it contains about 4 to 5% copper, 0.5 to 1% manganese, and then 0.5 to 2% magnesium. And then like the age hardenable part it's a low temperature heat treating process to increase the strength and like mechanical properties of aluminum alloys. Yeah. So like the name itself is like not I think it's not used anymore, or like it just says it's a trade name that's obsolete. So
Nice.
it's just like aluminum alloy.
That's pretty cool though.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because I'm sure the author like did research and was like, okay, what metals would be best for automail in the cold.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, and then we had philosophical analysis, the whole thing that Ed was talking about. Race, gender, identity doesn't matter in serious situations where people need to come together. Because in the end,
and that's
people.
Yeah, and that's like what Miles was saying, is that like as long as you're strong, like it doesn't matter who you are, and like your race, gender, identity doesn't
disclude you.
Yeah, it doesn't like define like your strength, I guess.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I don't know. All right. I think that's all we had for the episode. So now we can share our favorite lines. We'll let Olivia go first.
I just thought it was, well, I liked when General Armstrong was like, "Hello, little red runt." That was pretty great. But then when Sloth was like hit by, well, I think it was the tank, he was like, "Pain is pain. Pain is annoying."
Yeah. That was one of my favorites too.
I love that. So great.
All right, Megan, what was your favorite line?
Mine was Ed talking about race. Like, I like it better in the manga, but I just wanted to mention what he said in the anime. And he said, besides, I think people should try to ignore their race and just treat each other as equals.
Yeah, I think that
I get where he's coming from.
Yeah, I get where he's coming from, but like I think the anime didn't word it right. Like it's way better.
Way better.
I liked how the manga worded it. That was nice. But I feel like it's like, well, race does matter, kind of. Like you shouldn't just ignore where you're from and like
but it's not your complete value as a human being.
Yeah.
What was your favorite line, Meg?
Mine came from Olivier when they're talking about I think learning alchemy. She's like, you can never know too much.
Yes.
And that's how I feel.
Yes.
All right. What did we learn in this episode?
We learned to choose wisely the people you surround yourself with.
Yes. And then who pushed the story forward?
Olivier, for introducing Ed and Al to the harsh reality of Briggs.
Yes.
All right. That's all we've got.
Yeah. Another quick episode. Thanks, Olivia, for coming on. It was super fun.
No problem. I love this show, and you guys do a good job. So
thank you.
Thanks. All right. We will be back next week with another episode.
Yep. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.